You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken Tech for your ears.
Welcome along. Today, we're unpacking some really interesting updates from the world of development and infrastructure.
Yeah, lots happen.
We've gone through a whole stack of recent notes, articles, that kind of thing, to pull out what you really need to know, kind of your shortcut to getting up to speed.
Exactly, cutting through the noise.
Okay, so let's get into it. First up, something that's, well, genuinely shifting things for developers. GitHub Copilot. It's becoming much more than just a handy assistant, right?
Oh, absolutely. The really fascinating part is how it's becoming an active AI collaborator.
Active collaborator. What does that actually mean day to day?
Well, think beyond just code suggestions. It's being designed to, spot problems on its own, maybe even review your code and adapt to how you work, either right there with you or asynchronously. It ties into this bigger idea of agentic workflows. The AI isn't just waiting for you to ask, it's becoming more proactive.
So, like, it might see a bug you haven't spotted yet or suggest a refactor?
Precisely. It's watching, identifying potential issues, maybe suggesting improvements, all without you explicitly prompting it for that specific task. It's a much more independent role.
Wow. Okay. That sounds incredibly powerful, almost like a tireless pair programmer. But does that mean we developers need different skills to work with an AI like that, to manage it?
Yeah, that's a great point. It definitely shifts the focus, maybe less on just banging out lines of code and more towards higher level thinking, architecture, design.
And knowing how to ask the AI the right questions. Prompt engineering.
Exactly. Prompt engineering, verifying the output, making sure it fits the bigger picture. You become more of an orchestrator. A conductor, maybe?
Conductor. I like that. Okay, so with all this powerful AI and automation, security becomes even more critical, doesn't it?
Always.
There was that recent incident at Grafana Labs. What can we learn from that? It involved a GitHub action, I believe.
That's right. And it really highlights, the need to protect those CI/CD pipelines. The issue was a vulnerable configuration in a GitHub action.
Which could mean what, potentially?
Well, these often stem from permissions being too broad or maybe secrets not being handled quite right within the pipeline itself. It could have been quite serious.
Okay.
The good news, though, is that Grafana Labs spotted it and reacted really quickly. So, importantly, no code, systems, or customer data was actually compromised.
That's a relief. What did they do to prevent it happening again?
They brought in an open source tool called Zizmore for static analysis.
Static analysis, basically scanning code for known issues without running it.
Exactly, looking for common vulnerability patterns. But interestingly, they ran into challenges scaling it up. Things like hitting API rate limits with external services and just distributing the configurations effectively across everything.
So even with a good tool, putting it into practice at scale isn't trivial.
Not at all. It shows that operationalizing these things, even open source ones, needs careful thought. Architecture matters there too.
So thinking about those scaling issues, they hit the API limits, config distribution. What's a practical takeaway for listeners trying to avoid similar problems in their own pipelines?
A really key thing is doing proper blast radius checks for your CI/CD actions.
Blast radius.
Yeah, understand exactly what permissions they have, what they can touch, and then have solid logging and monitoring around those interactions. For API limits specifically, things like smart caching or queuing can make a big difference. It's about building in resilience from the start.
Makes sense. Designed for potential problems, not just the happy path. Okay, moving on from security lessons, let's hit some other interesting tools and infrastructure updates. Argo Workflows 3.7 is out.
Yep, continuing to enhance workflow automation. And on the infrastructure side, something pretty hefty. Amazon EC2 CAGN instances are now generally available.
CAGM, what's special about those?
These run on the new AWS Graviton 4 processors. And the numbers are, frankly, quite staggering. Up to 600 gigabits per second network bandwidth.
Whoa, 600? That's a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah, it really is. And about a 30% compute performance bump over the Graviton 3 ones. That 600 GBPs, though, it really changes the game for anything needing massive network throughput.
Like what kind of applications?
Think big media processing, maybe financial services doing real-time trading or data ingestion, large-scale AI training where you're moving huge data sets. It could genuinely unlock new possibilities there.
Gotcha. And you mentioned something else, Talos Linux for Kubernetes.
Ah, yes. Talos Linux.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting approach. It's a minimal security-focused OS for Kubernetes, but the key thing is how it's managed. entirely via API.
Entirely via API. So no SSH, no shell access.
Nope, none of that, which drastically cuts down the attack surface.
Right.
All management happens through the Kubernetes API, which is already meant to be controlled and secured. It even has built-in security features and VPN connectivity. It's a fundamentally different way to think about managing the OS under Kubernetes.
That is a different philosophy. But no SSH. Are there situations where that, or maybe even the new EC2 instances wouldn't be the best choice, where the benefits don't outweigh the migration effort?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
With Talos, that no-shell approach means you really have to buy into managing everything the Kubernetes way. If you've got legacy stuff or need direct OS access for, say, debugging in a way the K8s API doesn't support, it could be a steep curve or need major changes.
Right.
And for the EC2's CA-GENA instances, remember they use Graviton, which is ARM-based.
Yeah.
Most modern software is fine on ARM now, but if you have very specific legacy code or something highly optimized for x86, you need to recompile, test, and benchmark carefully to make sure it performs as expected. It's not always a simple drop-in replacement.
Good points. Always test your specific workload. Okay, so let's pull this together. We've talked about AI becoming more of an active partner.
Yeah, that whole agentic workflow idea
Learn some important security lessons from Grafana's experience.
about pipeline security and scaling tools. Yep.
And touched on new tools like Argo and seriously powerful infrastructure like the C8 Gene instances and Talos Linux. What's the common thread here, would you say?
I think it's this relentless drive for, well, efficiency, better security, and just more powerful capabilities all across the board for developers and ops teams.
Right. More automation, more intelligence.
Exactly. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As these AI agents get smarter and the infrastructure gets more capable, how far does this go before the actual role of the developer starts to look fundamentally different?
That is the big question, isn't it? Something for everyone to chew on. Well, that's all we have time for today. Until next time, keep learning and keep building.
Spoken Tech for your ears.